hope you brought your flute, because we're going to be talking about the man with the largest flute collection, I believe, in history of flute collections, which was Dayton Miller. But actually, we're not going to be talking specifically about the flute, but rather the interferometer. He took what was called like the Michelson-Morley experiment, the first experiment with an interferometer where they tried to measure the orbital motion of the Earth using the induction rate of light relative to the equations that J.C. Maxwell had derived from the electric constant and the magnetic constant, so that they knew what that rate of light should be-ish. They understood how that worked and how they could use that to measure the relative speed or the relative motion of the Earth, and they didn't find that orbital velocity of the Earth. Instead, what they found was a much slower relative motion. They understood how electromagnetic induction would work and how a medium was necessary for that induction to work. This is before Albert Einstein came along in 1905 and made science into religion. So we actually had logic behind how light would work and how there would actually be an absolute frame of reality, an absolute lab frame, where the laws of physics are actually applicable universally. They're not relativistic. We don't have to relativistically do science. Because it turns out when you actually go to measure those things using like precise instruments, direct measurements, a ray of light in some water, some running water. Because you can look at the Fresnel drag test, right? Water going one way and the other. The water's going 44% faster, or the light's going 44% faster with the water, 44% slower against the water. So something's dragging the light. So when Miller took his measurements and found a preferred directionality to the quote-unquote speed of light, and it correlates with the equinoxes, and it's not consistent with the orbital motion of the Earth in the heliocentric model, then what is that thing that's moving? What's dragging the light? What's causing that difference? That would be the ether wind. And actually, I conceptualize of it a bit deeper as being something like absolute time. It would be like the flow of everything, essentially, because everything exists within this background medium. And the equinoxes, like literally the time in the sky, seems to correlate with the periodicity of this measurable ether wind. So if you wanted to look at like how to measure time, the closest thing maybe, in my opinion, you could get to it would be to look at this flow of this ether wind.